intensifying lockdown for eThekwini. It is for these reasons that the Provincial Command Council decided on Friday to implement an intensified lockdown for eThekwini district. We have issued a directive to our law enforcement authorities to apply the law in its strictest form and to make sure that there are no compromises. We want them to make sure that the violation of the breakdown by people who are supposed to be at home is met with concomitant punishment as set out by the law. There must be serious punishment to keep people adhering to the regulations. We wish to once again plead with our people to stay at home and respect the law. This is a health emergency. We are in a disaster mood. It is not business as usual. It is a mantra that we must recite every morning if that is what it needs to take. We need, when we wake up, we need to say to ourselves repeatedly, stay at home, respect the law. This is a healthy emergency. We are in a disaster mode. It is not business as usual. We cannot treat things as if they are normal. Interventions as we go forward. Our stringent intervention strategy to arrest the spread of COVID-19 in line with this new approach will be informed by sweeping door-to-door screening campaign. So we're going to embark on a very intense screening campaign, removal of infectious sources to specified isolation sites, set up testing and screening booths in areas of major movements, malls, transport routes, and taxi ranks. But in this regard, let's be clear. In malls, we expect that we will be meeting people who will be going to buy food, not that we will be meeting people who are roaming around. We are going to ensure adjustment and intensification of community containment intervention, informal settlement sanitization program, which we are starting right from Tuesday. We are also in line with this. In eThekwini, we will with immediate effect intensify multidisciplinary lockdown enforcement operations that will include SAPS, Metro, South African National Defence Force, Department of Transport, and the Department of Health. All of them will be working together to enforce the regulations. This will include the following operational concept to vigorously ensure compliance of the Disaster Management Act. Roadblocks, vehicle checkpoints, movement checks of people even at high commuter areas. So this thing of going around and think that you will not be searched or asked, it's now coming to an end, and we will want to enforce. During the mass screening, escort teams will be escorting health officials, conducting screening, and safeguard officials. Lockdown of hotspots to ensure thorough screening and testing. Now, let me explain further what we mean. By hotspots, there are areas where we identify that these are areas with prevalent or with high number of either people who are infected or those who are contacts. And in that, we are going to have the lockdown on that area, ensure that there is no movement, and intensify screening and testing in a very localized way. There will be townships which we are going to target in a bigger way, ensure that there is no movement, and ensure that there is proper screening and testing. We are going also to ensure that there is a monitoring of movements of commuters and transport from one district to the other. It must be clear that regulations are saying there must be no movement from one district to the other. So no one must be moving from Stenga to eThekwini, because we expect that people who are allowed to work are where they work. They are staying in nearby areas. And therefore, this movement of from one district to the other is not going to be allowed. And we are going to be very, very strict in ensuring that these regulations are enforced. We are also noticing that perhaps there is a leakage in the system insofar as self-isolation is concerned, in that those who are self-isolating, far from strict supervision, may interact with others and infect them. I must hasten to add that this is a World Health Organization guidelines, which we are at liberty to review as the country if we feel that it is not effective. We are moving in a direction whereby all people who test positive will be placed in isolation in facilities demarcated by government and only return home when they have shown signs of improvement and are testing negative. The issue of self-isolation, we are saying it's coming to an end. Once we discover that you have tested, we then take you in, and that is the end. Up until